A very good morning to all of you. Chalo, let's start with the session. So due to some technical issue that came in between, it got little bit delayed. My apologies for that thing. Okay guys. So first of all, a brief introduction about myself. So myself Sahil, and I am the faculty for Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude here at Shubharanjan IAS. Okay. First of all, what is the agenda of this particular session? So in this particular session, we are going to discuss UPSC 2023 ethics paper. That is the GS paper number 4. In this particular session, we are going to take up all the questions of the theory section A that has come in the ethics paper. And in this particular session, we are going to understand that what should be the approach, how you should approach the UPSC. Now, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about the GS paper number 4, you all might be knowing that this particular paper is one which have a potential that with a decent preparation, you can score triple digit marks here in this particular paper. Fine. You might be knowing about the previous toppers, for example, Vishakha Yadav, Mr. Pradeep Kumar. Okay. They have scored, and you can go and check that in UPSC scores 162 marks have also been scored. 162 marks, 141 marks, 157 marks. These are the numbers that have been scored in GS paper number 4. Now, I am not saying that you also have to score 160. You can say that this could be an exceptional thing, that one of an aspirant scored 162. But point is that with a decent preparation, we can at least score 130 plus. 130 plus at least we can score. 120 plus at least we can score. And you know this particular thing, that 1 mark, how does it makes a big difference in your final merit list. So our approach is that we need to prepare to such an extent that at least GS paper number 4, which is one of the most scoring paper, at least there we don't leave any mark which could have we could have got, but we are not getting that. So we need to understand all those particular nuances. And one more thing, as many of the students sitting in this session have been the one who have already covered the ethics with me. So to authenticate that whether we were successful in that endeavor or not, I have also attached the sources from where the questions have been in there in UPSC and whether we have completed in our class or not. So you will find all these things in your notes if you have covered already the session. These are in your notes. We'll be starting now with the session. First of all, one very basic thing, what was the level of this particular year's paper? So this particular year's paper I will rate as moderate. I will not say it was a very difficult paper. Also, I will not say that it was a very decent paper, because UPSC has asked the questions on few of those themes which were not asked earlier. For example, international aid, it was not asked earlier. Much has not been asked from this particular area. So I will rate that the paper was moderate. Okay. And now let's start with the discussion. Now guys, understand few things, that as we talk about GS paper number 4, the theory questions, they are of 10 marks and you have to write in 150 words. And often what aspirants are doing, and as I have seen hundreds and hundreds of copies of the aspirants who are writing mains, one problem is that in ethics paper, they are writing too much and often they are not able to complete the paper on time, and this is a very big problem. I come across the students and they say that, sir, I was not able to complete 2 questions or 1 question. Why? Maybe because you have written too much in your theory questions where it was not needed. Okay, and another thing, many number of times when we take discussions, those discussions are taken in such a way that it is humanly not possible to write that much content in exam, and we have tried to avoid that particular thing. Here in this particular session, we are going to see the questions, will understand the demand of the question, and precisely what I have done, I have divided the answer in 3 parts which you need to write in your exam, that is introduction, body and conclusion. Because you need to have, understand this particular thing, many number of times it is not possible that you will be able to write ideal answers in exam. Fine, के formal introduction होगा ही होगा, conclusion होगा ही होगा. ठीक है, many number of times you skip conclusion, many number of time you skip introduction. Fine, but ideal answer is that it should have 3 parts, and we are going to see that what we need to address in all these 3 parts here. Fine. So first of all, Is the screen visible to all of you? Okay. Now, okay, I am also audible till the last. Yes, I am audible till the last. Yes, no. Okay, fine. So first question, what do you understand by moral integrity and professional efficiency in the context of corporate governance of India? Illustrate with suitable examples. Illustrate with suitable examples. Now, this particular question has been picked from topic number 6 of our syllabus, corporate governance and issues related to the corporate governance. So, directly from the topic 6, this particular question has been picked up. Now, basically, guys, understand this thing that when we talk about the questions in which a particular value is given, there are two type of patterns in which UPSC asks a question. Pattern 1 is that they will ask you to define a particular value, or pattern number 2 is that what they'll do, they'll talk about some value, and on the basis of value they will ask some another question that what is the implication of this particular value in public administration. Are you getting it or not? How you can see the crisis of this value in modern context. So these are the two approaches in which value based questions are asked in UPSC exam. Now when we talk about this particular question is of type 1 where they are specifically asking the value. Are you getting it or not? What they are asking specifically, they are asking the value of moral integrity and professional efficiency in the context of corporate governance. Now understand this particular thing. When directly value is being asked, will not define value in introduction, because value is the main thing that is being asked. It will come in the main body of your answer. But when in the exam they have given a value and on the basis of that value some implications or some other application they have asked, then what you can do in introduction, you can define value crisply in one line or one and a half line, and then main body will be devoted to that particular section which is the core demand of the question. Are you understanding this particular thing or not? Now here specifically they are asking the value. So what we can do, we will be defining this particular value in main body part, but in introduction, what we can do in introduction, just a minute. Okay, so in introduction what we can do, we can specify just in a 2 line that why these 2 values are important for the corporate governance. Now you might be knowing this particular thing. There have been multiple corporate scams in the past year. There was this NSE scam that also happened last year. Okay, so simply what you will be going to do, moral integrity. Now we are not defining the value because that will be our main body part. So moral integrity and professional efficiency, they are the core components of corporate governance. Why? Because they bring ethical culture, accountability and long-term success of a corporation. Are you getting it or not? My point is this, guys, that when you are writing this particular answer, your answer should be different from GS paper number 2 and GS paper number 3. You need to emphasize on ethical terminologies, ethical key terms that are there. Okay, so very crisp introduction, moral integrity and professional efficiency. Why they are important? They are important for ethical culture, accountability and long-term success of a corporation. Now we will be talking about these particular values, what these values are. Okay, now as we talk about these particular values, what moral integrity is. Now integrity simply means, what integrity is? Integrity is to number one, uphold the highest standards of morality and ethicality. Highest standards of morality and ethicality. And secondly, integrity means that your thought, your speech and your action should be aligned. Many number of times, what I think and what I speak, they are different. I will be preaching a lot of good things to you, that you should do this, this should happen, but I am not doing the same thing. Are you getting it or not? Or simply I am thinking something else, but for the social acceptance, I am speaking something else. This is the lack of integrity. So integrity includes 2 things. Number one, integrity means to uphold the highest standards of ethicality and morality, Also, integrity means not to uphold the highest standard, but those highest standard of ethicality and morality should also be reflected in your actions. Should also be reflected in your actions. Now, as we talk about moral integrity in the context of corporate governance. So what moral integrity is in the context of corporate governance? It refers to the principles of honesty, fairness and transparency that should guide the conduct of a corporate and all the stakeholders of a corporate. Now, what will be the stakeholders in a corporate? In a corporate, top management will be a stakeholder, employees will be the stakeholder, shareholders will be the stakeholder. So what is integrity on the behalf of corporate governance? On the behalf of corporate governance, integrity means to uphold the highest standards of integrity and honesty, and those highest standards should be reflected into the corporate behavior, corporate practice and corporate governance. Is it clear or not? Very simple question, simple thing. Then the second comes is what is professional efficiency. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about a corporate, what is the objective of corporate? Okay, what is the objective of a corporate? A corporate exists for the maximization of wealth of shareholder. A corporate exists for a commercial purpose. And what is that commercial purpose? Commercial purpose is to maximize wealth and to do the production with highest efficiency. So what professional efficiency is all about? What professional efficiency is all about? So professional efficiency in the context of corporate governance refers to ability of directors and managers to make sound decisions, and to govern the matters of company in cost effective manner, so that it achieves its commercial goals, also it achieves its stated vision and mission. Are you getting it or not? So what is professional efficiency? Professional efficiency simply refers the ability of directors, top managers, okay, to make sound decisions which helps in achieving the company's goal in timely manner as well as in the cost effective manner. Is it clear or not? For example, we have taken this particular goal that we need to start a manufacturing plant, and that deadline to start that manufacturing plant is 2024, and we have allocated 500 crore rupees of budget for that. Two things: it should get started in 2024 and should be completed within 500 crore rupees, should not exceed to 700 crore, and timeline should also not be shifted to 2006, 2007, 26, 27. So what this is the professional efficiency. Are you getting it or not? Now, next demand of the question is that illustrate these particular things with the help of suitable examples. Illustrate with the help of suitable examples. Now, you need to give contemporary examples. Are you getting it or not? So what suitable examples of integrity and professional efficiency we can give? We can give the example of compassionate capitalism. We give the example of compassionate capitalism. Now, when we talk about compassionate capitalism, so idea of compassionate capitalism was given by Mr. Narayan Murthy of Infosys. Now, what Mr. Narayan Murthy provides in the compassionate capitalism? So he provides that the perception of a capitalist has been very much negative, that capitalists thrive on sucking the blood of the laborers and they never share their wealth with the larger society. So they provide this thing that the capitalists need to show a compassionate heart. Capitalists need to have a compassionate heart. So capitalism and compassion needs to be combined. Capitalism and compassion needs to be combined. Now, when we talk about the compassionate capitalism, what are the components of compassionate capitalism? Social responsibility. So it means a corporate needs to carry the philanthropic activities, for example, carrying forward the CSR. Second is employee-centric approach. Clear, minimum wage should be given, congenial working conditions should be given to the employee. Then ethical governance, corporate malpractices, mispractices should not be there. Transparency should be there in the corporate affairs. Fair auditing norms should be followed by a corporate. And then wealth distribution. Now, when we talk about the wealth distribution, the owners or the corporate managers, they should not behave as the owners of the wealth. Rather, that particular wealth should be distributed in the society for a larger context. Are you getting it or not? You can equate it also with the trusteeship theory of Gandhiji. So Gandhiji provides this particular thing, that the people having wealth should not behave as the owners of the wealth, rather they should behave as the trustees of the wealth. And wealth should be used, or wealth should be held in trust of the public and should be used for the public welfare. So these are the components of compassionate capitalism, which is given by Mr. Narayan Murthy of Infosys: social responsibility, employee-centric approach, ethical governance, and wealth distribution amongst the society. And second example in this particular direction that we can take is of Tata. Now what has happened? Tata Enterprise, we know, has governed its matter with ethicality, and because of the highest standards of ethics, Tata, here we see this particular thing, that Tata Power. So here Tata Power, it has been given world's most ethical company award in 2016 by Ethisphere Institute US. So world's most ethical company award was given to the Tata Power, and for consequently 3 years this particular most ethical company award has been given to Tata. Now you see these particular things, that because of the integrity and because of the ethics that have been reflected, for example, by Infosys and Tata, how it has helped these corporates. It has created goodwill and reputation of these corporates, and owing to this reputation and goodwill, what has happened? Employees have a credible image of these companies. Employees want to get associated for long term, and what has happened? Shareholders' wealth has also been increased because of the stellar reputation and stellar goodwill of the corporate. So automatically this moral integrity improves your reputation, improves your goodwill, and through that improved goodwill, what happened? A company reaps profit, company reaps economic dividends in the long run. Are you getting it or not? On the other hand, we see this particular thing, that lack of moral integrity has also led to a crisis for some other corporate. For example, here we can give example, Satyam scam, Chanda Kochar scam, Videocon ICICI deal where the scam has happened, Kingfisher's unethical business conduct. It reflects the lack of moral integrity in corporate sphere. So we have seen both examples, presence of moral integrity as well as the lack of moral integrity. Presence of moral integrity, compassionate capitalism, as well as the Tata Power getting the award of the most ethical company because of their good corporate governance standards that have been there. And on the other hand, we have seen that their decline became evident. Are you getting it or not? So this is about this question. And when we talk about conclusion, now what you are going to add in conclusion of this particular answer? So in conclusion, we can simply mention Gandhiji's 7 social sins. So Gandhiji has given the 7 social sin, and in the 7 social sin theory of Gandhiji, Gandhiji has talked about one sin, that is commerce without morality is a sin. Commerce without morality is a sin, it is a vice. Are you getting it or not? So simply corporates not having the moral integrity are committing a deadly sin as per the Gandhiji, that is the commerce without morality. If ethics are not there, morality is not there, you have no right to do business, to do commerce as per Gandhiji. So therefore, moral integrity becomes a sine qua non. Moral integrity becomes an indispensable. Moral integrity becomes the incompromisable attribute of a corporate governance. Are you getting it or not? So in introduction, what we are going to talk, we are going to give importance of the value. In body, we will be talking on these values. Okay, example also we will be giving. These are the 2 requirements in the body. And in introduction, conclusion, you can talk about the Gandhiji's 7 social sins. Are you getting it or not? And the students who have already taken up the ethics, you might be knowing also that we have discussed, for example, integrity was discussed into the chapter of foundational value, integrity, moral integrity, professional integrity, as well as the compassionate capitalism's idea also be discussed into the corporate governance, where directly compassionate capitalism of Narayan Murthy you can write here. Are you getting it or not? So this was the question number 1A. Are you getting it or not? So from here, directly this particular answer could have been extracted, already we have taken up. Then moving to the question number 1B, second question. Question number 1B, that is the second question. So the second question, question number 1B, now it talks about International aid is an accepted form of helping resource challenged nations. Comment on ethics of contemporary international aid. Comment on ethics in contemporary international aid. Support your answer with suitable example. Now, focus on this word, suitable example in both the questions. My point is that the nature of ethics has been changed since 2013 and 14. They were asking the question where contemporary dimension were not being asked that much, but now you have to equate your answers with the contemporary dimensions. If you are not putting contemporary examples, it means you will not be able to score that टॉप ऑफ द नॉच मार्क्स. समझ में आ रहा है? माई पॉइंट देखो, दो चीजें समझिए. डायरेक्टली यूपीएससी इज गिविंग यू अ डायरेक्टिव, गिव द सुटेबल एग्जांपल, और इवन इफ दे आर नॉट गिविंग, make it a rule that every dimension that you are mentioning you have to substantiate it with the empirical or the real world examples. Do that particular thing and you will see a sudden jump in your marks. Let's talk about this particular question. First of all, what we are going to do here in introduction, very simple. We will define in 2-3 lines what is international aid. Now, by the way, what is international aid? International aid is a type of a voluntary transfer that is made by a donor nation to a recipient nation. This aid could be in cash. For example, USA directly, let's say, giving money to Kenya. It could be in the form of kind transfer. For example, a country has given to other country desalinization plant. It has given to another country some vaccine. It has given to some another country some another kind of equipment. So it could be in cash, it could be in kind. These international aid, they have also been called as voluntary, also they have been called as ODAs, official developmental assistance. Are you getting? So OECD, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, define these international aid as ODA, official development assistance, and they are transferred from a donor to a recipient nation. Now we see that the quantum of this international aid has increased a lot after the World War II. Why after the World War II this international aid has increased? Two developments. Number one development, Marshall Plan. Now Marshall Plan of US specifically emphasized the redevelopment of Europe, which got damaged because of the World War II. So because of that particular thing, a lot of aid will be transferred from US towards the Europe as a part of a Marshall Plan. And this pattern will get institutionalized over these 70-75 years. Second, what has happened post World War II? Post-war institution, Bretton Woods institution that have come in existence. Okay, developmental institutions such as World Bank and many such other institutions that have come, they institutionalized this aid giving phenomena. So just in 3 lines or 2 lines, we'll mention all these things. For example, how to put it in the words? International aids, also known as official developmental assistance by OECD, are voluntary transfer from a donor nation to a recipient nation. Such aids could be in cash and kind, and we can witness the increase in such international aids post World War II due to Marshall Plan of US and post-war institutions such as Bretton Woods institutions that got instituted. Are you getting it or not? So in 3 lines we have given the history, we have given the definition, and we have given the trend that they are increasing. Now, when we talk about international aid, what is ethical issue in international aid? On face of it, it will look that such a good thing is happening, such a generous thing is happening. A rich nation is giving money to a poor nation. What bad is this? This is generosity, this is charity. But no, there are many ethical concerns that come in international aid. And for that particular thing, we are going to use the reference of 3 internationally acclaimed books that have been there. Are you getting it or not? In the classes also we have taken up this particular references. So there are 3 books. Okay, for example, there is this Elusive Quest for Growth, The White Man's Burden, and The Dead Aid. Now, as you are talking about ethical issues, we will, in our body, we will divide it in 2 parts. One, we will talk that how these aids have some moral problem attached with it. How there are some concerns in these ethical aid, these international aids. Second part, we will say that no, international aids, how they can be ethically justified. So first of all, What foreign aids? Foreign aids. Now, what is ethical issue with them? So when we talk about the foreign aid, there is then this one particular problem that has been raised, that often what it does, it makes a recipient nation perpetually dependent on the donor nation. Countries, they don't search for their own solutions. They become perpetually dependent on the donor nation. You take example of Africa. You take example of Africa. Now, when we talk about Africa, Africa as a continent has been the largest recipient of international aid in the last 70 years. But again, Africa is one of the most underdeveloped continent. Why? Because the countries became perpetually dependent on the foreign aid. Is it clear or not? So point is that rather than aid, capacity building approach should be used by the donor nation. Understand one particular thing. There is one saying that it is always better to give a hand, to lend a hand, rather than giving the doles. See, understand this thing. You give a person a fish or a rice, that person's hunger will be satiated for that day. You teach a person how to catch fish or how to grow rice, that person's hunger for entire life would be satiated. So rather than giving these handouts, these countries' capacity building should be done. And according to Dambisa Moyo, this book Dead Aid, they specifically says that there is a vested agenda of the developed countries. They want developing country that they should be dependent on them, so that their resource can be extracted conveniently. Are you getting it or not? The next, foreign aids, they are often accompanied on quid pro quo basis. What is quid pro quo? Something for something. We will give you aid and we want that you become the part of our military alliance. We give you aid and we want that you give a military base to us. You give a naval base to us. So quid pro quo basis is there, and therefore what has happened through this military aid, military alliance and allegiance under military alliance is seeked. So therefore what happens? It leads to the further antagonization. Okay? Then third, quantum of aid has increased, but according to OECD, the aid that is going to African countries, it has been reduced. Now Africa is a place, Africa is a continent which needs the most of the aid, but quantum of aid going to Africa has been reduced as per the OECD data. So it means that there is not a genuine concern. If there would have been genuine concern, the aid would have been directed only at that place where it is needed. Then we have the example of China. Now you might all be knowing about the debt trap diplomacy of China. Now when we talk about China's debt trap diplomacy, what China does? China deliberately gives unsustainable soft loans to the poor countries. And in an expectation, what China expects? That these countries will hand over their national assets to the China when they are not able to service that soft loan that has been given. What China does? China gives aid mixed with the loan. Okay, aid, you keep it, but that soft loan that they are giving, you have to pay back that. But when they are not able to pay back, China seeks to acquire their strategic asset. For example, Hambantota port of Sri Lanka. Hambantota port of Sri Lanka, which was taken for 99-year lease when Sri Lanka faced a difficulty in servicing the China's debt, which was mixed with some amount of aid. Are you understanding it or not? And then last, Economic Survey of India. Economic Survey of India has also, now it has highlighted a very beautiful point. Now what Economic Survey mentions? Economic Survey mentions that the taxation is a glue that binds the citizen and the state together. Taxation is a glue that binds the citizen and state together. Understand this thing. If a state is dependent on taxation, state is accountable to citizens, and citizens will also be responsible, and citizens will also seek the accountability of the state. Are you getting it or not? Now what happens when the state is receiving money from some foreign donor? They need not to depend on citizens' taxation, and therefore what happens? The relation between a state and citizen, it snaps. Citizens are not paying taxes, so citizens को भी फर्क नहीं पड़ता development आ रहा है या नहीं आ रहा. State is not dependent on citizens, so state also doesn't owe any accountability. So taxation is a glue that binds the citizen and state together. And in the case of Africa, now case study of Africa, it has been seen that as the nations have been dependent on foreign countries for aids, They have reduced the amount of taxation, and accountability of state towards the citizen have went down. And you see governance crisis, social justice crisis going on in Africa. Are you getting it or not? Social contract has been broken. लिख सकते हो, ठीक है. Then on the other hand, there are some good examples also that ethical aid is not all bad, it is virtuous also. Now virtuous example आप क्या दे सकते हो? Millennium Village Project of Kenya. Millennium Village Project of Kenya. Now what is this Millennium Village Project of Kenya? Under this Millennium Village Project in Kenya, certain villages, they were selected and they were given an upstart capital. Money was given to them so they can procure fertilizers. Okay, they can establish working health clinics, they can procure computers and all such kind of a thing. And over a period, it has been seen that these villages, they have evaded the poverty trap. So they say that some upfront capital or some ignition capital is often needed for a countries so that they can evade the poverty trap. Understand this particular thing, that if you give me some upfront capital, what I can do? I can invest in those capabilities which will help me to grow in the long run. So in Millennium Village Project of Kenya, it has been seen that the villages that were given the aid, they have evaded the poverty trap and are now prospering. Okay? So conclusion should be, what should be the conclusion? Conclusion is not that कि aid बिल्कुल ही बंद कर दो या aid देने दो. Conclusion will be this, that as we talk about the aids, foreign aids need to focus on three criterias. Foreign aids need to focus on three criterias and should be given keeping three things in mind. Number one, foreign aids should be focused on capacity building. Foreign aid should be given in such a way that it helps the country to gain their economic upliftment. Second, without expectation, foreign aid is to be given so that country is not being pulled in some alliances. And third, foreign aids should be of untied nature. Many number of a time the aid is tied. For example, I am giving you 100 rupees, you have to use this money in this. Now every country has their own unique problems. So the aid needs to be of untied nature, where they should be given a liberty that they should use the aid wherever they want. Are you getting it or not? Okay. So this is the way as how we will be approaching this idea. Clear? Now the question is, see, if you see the wording of the question that has been there, what question says? Question says, international aid is an accepted form of helping. Comment on ethics in contemporary international aid. Don't just write the negative dimension. You also need to write that how ethical aid are virtuous also. How ethical aids have helped also. So example of Kenya, example of Sri Lanka, example of China that we have given. Why? Because answer with this help of suitable examples. Are you getting it or not? Fine. So this topic also we have discussed in the topic number 6, foreign aid. What is foreign aid? What are the ethical issues in the foreign aid? Okay, and the references of these books also. Fine. Elusive quest for growth, white man's burden, etc. That also we have also taken up in the class. So you can see it on this page in your booklet. Okay, then moving on to the next question. Yes. See, aid kya hai? Aid is not to be paid back. It is a generous transfer. No, that will be different. Both are the different things. What China's strategy is, China's strategy of debt trap diplomacy is this, that what it does, it gives the aids mixed with some soft loan component. For example, I will be giving you 500 rupees. In this 500 rupees, 100 rupees aid and 400 rupee is a loan which will be a soft loan, means very marginal interest rate, and you have to pay it over a very long period of time. Are you getting it or not? Now often countries which are being given these aids mixed with soft loan, the money that you are giving, they don't have a capacity to service it back. Are you getting it or not? Yes. what is the core question? China's approach is this. China is what this is the ethical concern that comes. Now what they do, they are giving a mixed component. Are you getting it or not? So aid mixed with the soft loan. Are you getting it or not? So basically the aid is a cover. In a long term, this is the criticism of China's debt trap diplomacy. Now this is the strategy. Are you getting it or not? साफ सीधा सीधा लोन लिया, it will become unattractive. इतना पूरा का पूरा aid दे दिया, तो obviously चाइना को क्या मिला? तो what they do? They take this particular route. Yes. नहीं जरूरी नहीं है, आप वो मेंशन करो जो आपके आंसर को स्ट्रेंथन कर रहा है. Are you getting it or not? If you mention, you can mention. Yes, listen. One point you can also mention if you want in the last, that India also have given the voluntary aid transfers. For example, during the time of COVID, we have given the vaccines under the Vaccine Maitri initiative, but we did not expected anything. And it was purely given on the humanitarian basis. So it can be an example of an ethical aid. वो भी आप लोग, you can use that. Moving to the next question, that is the question number 2A. Yes. लिख सकते हो, लेकिन डिमांड क्वेश्चन की नहीं है ना. दो चीजें समझो. पहली बात, इंडिया को भी एड मिली है, क्लियर. पॉइंट इज दैट, बट दैट पर्टिकुलर डायमेंशन इज नॉट relevant in this particular question. One thing. Second thing, even we don't have that much space and time to mention that thing, because first thing that I mentioned is that 10 marks 150 words. तो ये सारी चीजें जो आप बोल रहे हो वो है, बट स्कोप नहीं है और डिमांड नहीं है. ठीक है. यस. Yes, you can mention that they are given by the, but my point is that core demand ही नहीं है क्वेश्चन का, तो क्यों जाना है आपको. ठीक है. क्वेश्चन नंबर 2A. यस. यस. दोनों है, मेजरली लोन है, लोन है. ठीक है. ओके. क्वेश्चन नंबर 2A, करप्शन. नाउ लिसन दिस, अंडरस्टैंड दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन. सी, read the question very carefully. Corruption is the manifestation of the failure of core values in the society. In your opinion, what measures can be adopted to uplift the core values of the society? Now you tell me, is question talking about corruption or is question talking about value inculcation? Value inculcation. Now in exam what will happen? A panic trigger button will get activated, and the moment you have read the first line where it is mentioning that corruption is the manifestation of failure of core values, what you are going to do? You are going to write about the corruption 2 paragraphs, and for that particular thing you are not going to get any mark. Why? Because the question starts from here. This is the core demand of the question. This is the core question. In your opinion, what measures can be adopted to uplift the core value of the society? Corruption के ऊपर में 2 लाइनें लिखो कि that we see corruption today in the society majorly because of the decline of moral values in the people, but beyond that you need not to write a lot on corruption, because a 10 marker question 150 words, you need to keep it in your mind. Time and space is a scarcity here. Time and a space is a scarcity here. Are you understanding it or not? So as we talk about this particular question, what you can do, you can, if you have in your mind, you can write some quotation for corruption. Now why? Because corruption is a very generic topic in our GS, and you might be having some quotation about corruption. For example, corruption is paid by poor Pope Francis. But no problem if you don't have any such quotations idea in your mind. Simply you can say that corruption, just in one line you will talk about corruption and value. उसके बाद corruption की बात नहीं करेंगे. Corruption is the symbolic of greed and self-loathing tendency in a society which reflects the crisis of value in a society. What corruption? Corruption क्या symbolize करता है? Corruption symbolizes greed. Corruption symbolizes self-centricism. Corruption symbolizes selfishness, self-loathing tendency. And when the greed, selfishness, self-loathing tendency will come, it will come when there are not the moral values. So corruption directly is coming out of the moral values, lack moral values crisis. Are you getting it or not? Now, little bit of a background. First of all, you need to understand, and then I'll go in this particular question. Little bit of a background. See this particular thing. See, we have values. We have values. By the way, what is a value? In one line, value are the standards or parameters on which we assess the desirability of any action. Okay, I desire honesty. Why? Because I have a value of honesty. I desire XYZ. Why? Because I have a value in that line. So values are the parameters on whose basis we assess the desirability of anything. Understand? One's value will determine your standard of behavior. Your values will determine your standard of behavior. What you want, what you don't want in your life, it will be determined on the help of value. What is acceptable, what is not acceptable will be determined by the help of value. Value shapes your attitudes. Your attitudes in turn influence your choices. And your choices at the end of the day will determine the type of behavior that you are going to do. Yes or no? So at the end of the day, and at the end of the day, how we judge a person as ethical or not? On the basis of behavior, yes or no? Can you know what is going on in the mind of a person? No. Though ethics pertains to intention of a person, but intentions we cannot know. So how we will know whether a person has been ethical or not? By seeing the person's behavior. अब आप ये बताओ, बिहेवियर डायरेक्टली कहां से आ रहा है? वैल्यू. बिहेवियर डायरेक्टली कहां से आ रहा है? वैल्यू. इज करप्शन एन एलिमेंट ऑफ बिहेवियर और नॉट? इज करप्शन अ टाइप ऑफ अ बिहेवियर और नॉट? यस. सो करप्शन इज अ टाइप ऑफ अ बिहेवियर. एवरी बिहेवियर इज कमिंग फ्रॉम वैल्यू. तो फंडामेंटली इफ यू वांट टू टेक केयर ऑफ करप्शन, यू वांट टू रिमूव करप्शन विच इज अ बिहेवियर, क्या चेंज करना पड़ेगा? क्या चेंज करना पड़ेगा? वैल्यू. सो वैल्यू चेंज करना है, हमको वैल्यू देना है लोगों को. एथिकल वैल्यूज हैव टू बी गिवन टू द पीपल, एंड फॉर दैट व्हाट वर्ड वी यूज? वैल्यू इनकल्केशन. सो करप्शन इज अ प्रॉब्लम बिकॉज ऑफ द लैक ऑफ एथिकल वैल्यू inculcation, lack of ethical value inculcation. Now see this particular thing. So therefore what is needed? Therefore what is needed in the society? In the society, ethical value inculcation is needed. It is must. Are you getting it or not? थोड़ा सा और background समझ लेते हैं. It will clear our concept. This is good. Now understand this thing. One's values, how one's values are formed? One's values are formed on the basis of one's belief. Your beliefs will shape your values. My beliefs will shape my values. Everybody's on the basis of beliefs, one's values are shaped. अभी आपके belief किससे influence होते हैं? आप मेरे को ये बताओ. For example, I say, this is my belief that God exists. This is my belief that God exists. This is my belief that this happens, that happens. Every belief that I have, from where that belief is coming? मेरे belief are coming from my family, yes or no? My belief is coming from the society in which I am living, yes or no? My belief are being formed by my peer group, my friend, etc. or not? Are you getting it or not? आप 4 दिन चोरों के साथ रहो, 5वें दिन आप भी सोचोगे चोरी कहां करनी है. Are you getting it or not? It is said that a man is known by the book he reads and the company he keeps. So therefore, your peers, the type of company you are in, they are always influencing your beliefs. समझ में आ रहा है? Now, how one's beliefs are formed? How one's beliefs are formed? One's beliefs are simply formed by socialization. Yes or no? One's belief will be formed by through the process of socialization. Is it visible to everyone? So how the beliefs will be formed? Beliefs will be formed through the process of socialization. Socialization क्या होता है? Socialization is a complex process by which a person knows how to behave, how to respond in a society. Are you getting it or not? 2 children are born in India. One child was taken to US. 2 twins, one was taken to US and the other brother, he was taken to any, let's say, state of India. Are you getting it or not? 20 साल बाद दोनों मिलते हैं. क्या दोनों का बिहेवियर, बात करने का तरीका सब अलग होगा या नहीं होगा? होगा. Why? Socialization was different. तो अंडरस्टैंड, our beliefs are formed by socialization, beliefs from value. So at the end of the day, socialization will play an important role in value. Yes or no? How your socialization is happening? how your, or simple word if you want, how your social upbringingness is happening. Your upbringingness will define the type of beliefs you will have, and your belief will define your values that you will have. And who plays the most important role in socialization? Who plays the most important role in socialization? The role is played by family, educational institution, your teachers, and the society as a whole. Are you getting it or not? In fact, on the same thing, now this is the third time that a question is being asked. Twice UPSC has asked this particular question, 2017 and 2022. How? Listen. This was the quotation of Dr. Kalam that was given. 2 times UPSC has asked. If a country is to be corruption free and become a nation of beautiful mind, देखो corruption free की बात करिए. If a country is to be corruption free and become a nation of beautiful mind, I strongly feel that 3 key societal members can make a difference. Father, mother and teacher. तो डॉक्टर कलाम ने साफ साफ बोला है कि करप्शन फ्री सोसाइटी, इफ यू हैव टू मेक, 3 people will play the most important role, father, mother and teacher. तो father, mother, family, teacher means educational institution. Are you getting it or not? If now the point is that if you have done the previous year questions, this particular quotation will click in your mind, because 2 times this quotation has been asked in UPSC. Usually quotation based questions are not repeated. Questions are repeated, but quotation based questions are not repeated, but 2 times it has been asked. So what we'll do in this particular question, now what we'll do, we will specifically be providing that how these 3 institutions will inculcate value, and by the positive values that are inculcated by these 3 forces, corruption free society can be made, corruption as a social problem can be reduced. Are you getting it or not? समझ में आ रहा है? So for example, family, what family does? Family gives you the early moral education, yes or no? Okay. Educational institution, your teachers, they shape your perceptions, they shape your beliefs by their pedagogy, by the teacher, by their attitudes. They shape your attitudes, yes or no? Are you getting it or not? Secondly, in educational institution, you experience diversity. When you experience diversity, क्या होता है? Listen this thing. Your home is a homogeneous unit. All the people in your home are homogeneous. Same caste, same religion, same belief, everything. When you first time go to an educational institution, you experience diversity. Diversity of religion, diversity of caste, diversity of regions, diversity of viewpoints. And when you experience diversity, you learn tolerance. You learn accommodation. So good values are inculcated by educational institution. Family, they are responsible for teaching you good habits. Families are responsible for correcting your ethical perspective. Family through early childhood education teaches you value, yes or no? Okay. And society as a whole. Now how society as a whole shapes your value system? Batao. Listen this thing. Every time in any year you go in the history, certain things are acceptable and certain things are unacceptable, yes or no? Certain things are acceptable and certain things are unacceptable. Whatever is acceptable in a society, an individual is indirectly getting a signal that this I can do, yes or no? And what is unacceptable in a society, an individual is getting a signal, this I cannot do, yes or no? Sometimes a society allows or normalizes wrong thing. Sometimes society normalizes the unethical things and forbids ethical things, yes or no? Once upon a time slavery was normalized or not? Are you getting it or not? Many number of times racism, discrimination, gender oppression, it is normalized in the society. Are you getting it or not? Untouchability was normalized at one point of a time, yes or no? And it doesn't take cognizance of good things. Reformers, at one point of a time, there was a lot of backlash that used to happen against the social reformers, that these people are interfering in our culture. तो सोसाइटी का रोल क्या है? सोसाइटी का रोल ये है, सोसाइटी नीड्स टू नॉर्मलाइज द राइट थिंग्स एंड नीड टू कंडेम द रॉन्ग थिंग्स. Glorification of criminals should not be done. Glorification of evils should not be done. Are you getting it or not? Many number of times glorification of toxic masculinity happens. Glorification of religious exclusivism, it happens. होता है या नहीं होता? तो सोसाइटी का ऐसे रोल है. My point is that you need to write only two lines in this, because तीनों एक्टर पे भी दो लाइन लिखा, around 7-8 lines you will reach, because exactly दो में तो नहीं रुकोगे. You can quote, yes, you can. Then in introduction, what we are going to do, because now in introduction directly use the quotation of Dr. Kalam, because it is addressing to both the things. So in introduction, conclusion, my mistake, conclusion. So in conclusion, what you can do, you can simply mention that if a country is to be corruption free and to become a nation of beautiful minds, I strongly believe that 3 key societal members can make a difference, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So therefore, good values can eradicate the corruption from the society. Good values can eradicate the corruption from the society. Are you getting it or not? ठीक है. In the notes also we have taken up, okay, this particular thing also we have taken up in the notes. In notes, if you remember, we have discussed the topic of value inculcation. ठीक है. If you remember, we have discussed the topic of value inculcation here. Okay, so here as we have discussed value inculcation, what is value inculcation, ठीक है, how in value inculcation role will be played by family, role of family in value inculcation, ठीक है, उसके बाद में what is the role of educational institution in value inculcation, case study of Japan. Fine, selected content from here you can mention, and even if you don't remember, very generic basic points. Society आपको कैसे, आपकी family आपको क्या ethics सिखाती है, through mythological stories, through cultural tradition, through moral education, by correcting your habits. Are you getting it or not? So अगर family के point of view से, educational institution के point of view से चीजें ठीक हो जाए, at the end of the day when you'll grow up, you will become an ethical citizen, and an ethical citizen will ensure that corruption is not carried. Are you getting it or not? So question is on value inculcation. Question is on value inculcation. Are you getting it or not? And in value inculcation, 3 actors, their role, and conclusion में Dr. Kalam का quotation डाल दो, या नहीं है तो in the similar words you can add a conclusion.
Because corruption now we are facing that big government corporates are also giving
देखो आप, यस, करप्शन के और भी रीजन है, लेकिन हमको फंडामेंटल प्रेमाइस के अगेंस्ट में नहीं जाना, नंबर 1. नंबर 2, आप लोग बार बार ये वाली बात समझो, क्या हमारे पास में उतना टाइम और इतना एनर्जी है कि दैट हम प्रेमाइस को डिफीट कर दें? आप प्रेमाइस को डिफीट करो, आप बोलो कि दैट नहीं सर, करप्शन तो और भी रीजन की वजह से होता है. उसने करप्शन की आपसे बात ही नहीं करी है. आर यू गेटिंग इट और नॉट? वो क्वेश्चन कुछ और ही पूछ रहा है. व्हाट विल हैपन, हमने पूरा अपना एक पेज भी वेस्ट कर दिया, क्वेश्चन की डिमांड भी मीट नहीं हुई और नंबर भी नहीं आए. अंडरस्टैंडिंग माई पॉइंट और नॉट? ठीक है. प्रीमाइस इज टॉकिंग अबाउट करप्शन इज बिकॉज ऑफ वैल्यू इनकलकेशन. दिस इज वन ऑफ अ रीजन व्हाई आई सेड दैट स्टार्टिंग में कि करप्शन पे मत लिखना पूरा, बिकॉज करप्शन पे क्वेश्चन नहीं है. क्वेश्चन इज ऑन वैल्यू इनकलकेशन इफ यू रीड इट अगेन. ठीक है, क्वेश्चन को दोबारा पढ़ते हैं एक बार. क्वेश्चन क्या बात बोल रहा है? Question says, in your opinion, what measures can be adopted to uplift the core value of society? This is the question. Are you getting? Moving on to the next question. Yes. Conclusion. Okay. The next question, in the context of work environment, differentiate between coercion and undue influence with suitable examples. So they have given a very straightforward question from the topic of in the topic of the work premises, work culture, work ethics, coercion and undue influence with suitable examples. Now I don't think you need a very specialized knowledge to write answer on this. What is coercion? You tell me, what is coercion? What is coercion? Coercion is the phenomena of using force against another person to influence another person's behavior. Usage of force. For example, मैंने आपके सामने एक बंदूक रख दी. Do this, otherwise I'll harm you. This is an example of coercion. Are you getting it or not? And we see that in a toxic work culture, in unproductive work culture, Often employees, they have to face coercion. They often have to face coercion. Okay. Examples also will take. Now, what we need to do? Introduction will be very straightforward. Now, my point is that body's demand is coercion and undue influence. So, in introduction, we'll not define it, we'll define it in the body. So, introduction will be very straightforward. What should be the introduction? For example, in the course of organizational work culture, coercion and undue influence are the symbolic of toxic work culture. And such toxic work culture often impacts organizational productivity. It often demoralizes the employee. It impacts an organization, and organization is not able to meet its vision, mission and target. So, what हम इसको क्या करेंगे? We'll say that how these values are the part of a toxic work culture. How these two things are impacting the organization success. Okay, fine. Now, what is coercion? So, coercion is simply using threat or force to compel, to force anyone to do anything against their will. I don't want, but you want me to do that thing against my will, you will use force. That is coercion. Now, when we talk about coercion, there can be multiple different types of coercions that are there. For example, there can be physical coercion. What is physical coercion? Using physical force or giving a threat of physical harm to an employee or to a person. That is a physical coercion. Recently, you might have seen this particular thing. It was reported in the newspaper that a couple who were in aviation, they hired a women house help and they have harassed her physically. Are you getting it or not? To work for long hours. ये किसका example है? This is example of physical coercion. So you can just mention that example without mentioning the name of the people and all such kind of a thing. For example, recently in Delhi, a couple were reported to have used extreme physical torture against a women house help. Example of physical coercion. क्यों बोल रहे हैं? Because question mentions to give the examples. Then next, there can be sexual coercion. Okay, it involves the threat or intimidation to force someone into sexual activity without their consent. For example, holding a person to ransom that if you will not compromise sexually, you will not be given a promotion, or you will be demoted, you will not be given a promotion. That is an example of sexual coercion. Now, example, Vishaka guidelines, they became the basis of prevention of sexual harassment at workplace act. Why Vishaka guidelines came? Because to tame sexual coercion. Vishaka guidelines came to reduce or to tame the sexual coercion that has been prevalent to a large number. Yes or no? Okay. Then the next, third could be financial coercion. What is financial coercion? Threatening a person. Now see, a person needs a particular job and it is a financial compulsion of a person that a person cannot leave the job. Clear? Now, forcing a person to work beyond the stated hours or forcing a person to do work beyond his mandate, otherwise his salary will be stopped, otherwise he will be fired. You know that the person needs his job because of his financial circumstances. So, financial coercion. What the financial coercion is? Using threat or intimidation to control someone's financial situation. And then comes the undue influence. What is undue influence? Undue influence में force नहीं है. Undue influence is manipulating another person by using some lie, by using some kind of an fabricated facts. That is undue influence. Is it clear or not? So what is undue influence? Manipulating somebody to do something which is actually not in their best interest. For example, you are a new joinee, and there is a very risky project that is there. I am also is one of a colleague. A risky project has been given to me. I don't want to take that risky project, and you are a new joinee. I am manipulating you that you should take this new project. This will be very good for your career. You don't know anything about that. Okay, and you see that I am a trustworthy person. Are you getting it or not? So this is undue influence. What is undue influence? Using one's position or power or authority to manipulate to do something that is not in their best interest. Are you getting it or not? ठीक है. A manager manipulating a new joinee to undertake a risky project which might hamper his profession. And politicization of bureaucracy is another example. Often we see this particular thing, that politicization of bureaucracy. Ministers, they are the one who can transfer you, who can give you favorable postings, who can give you punishment postings, yes or no? So what happens? Minister will call you that if you will do this thing, it will be good for you. Are you getting it or not? वो बंदूक नहीं रख रहे हैं, वो आपको पीट नहीं रहे हैं. But by using their authority, now minister has called that you should do this. Actually, it goes against your work ethics. But by the virtue of their power, they are trying to influence you. So politicization of bureaucracy is example of undue influence of politicians over bureaucrats. Politicians over bureaucrats. It's fine. So these two examples we can give here. Are you getting it or not? Okay, and then in conclusion, we will simply be mentioning that these tendencies of coercion, undue influences have proven to be ineffective in bringing a productive work culture. It hampers individual as well as collective productivity of an organization. Therefore, adequate measures should be adopted so that these particular tendencies are avoided. These tendencies are avoided. Is it clear or not? Yes. Yes, you can mention. But that is again coercion के अंदर में वो आ जाएगा. Okay, yes. नहीं, little bit overlap is there. Little bit overlap will be there.
So, sir, in conclusion, we can mention this overlap, though these concepts are different, but there is an overlap.
Yes, sometimes undue influence and coercion, they can be.
Sir, means politicization of bureaucracy is also a type of mental coercion on the bureaucrat.
देखो, नेचर डिपेंड करता है आप कैसे कर रहे हो. आप फोर्स थ्रेट यूज कर रहे हो तो कोercion है. फोर्स और थ्रेट यूज नहीं कर रहे हो.
सर, बट वो उन्हें ट्रांसफर जो पनिशमेंट पोस्टिंग का थ्रेट ही तो है.
नहीं, थ्रेट नहीं दिया ना. आपको लग रहा है कि दैट यार ये मिनिस्टर बोल रहा तो करना ही चाहिए. आर यू गेटिंग इट और नॉट? मिनिस्टर को इंटरफेयर में भी नहीं करना चाहिए इन कामों में, लेकिन मिनिस्टर इज डूइंग दैट. फाइन, इन अ वे ही इज ट्राइंग टू शोकेस हिज अथॉरिटी.
थैंक यू सर.
नहीं, इतना नहीं है टाइम. फाइन. यस, डाल सकते हो विदाउट पॉलिटिसाइजिंग इट. यस.
Is it necessary that the person who, sir, in undue influence, is it necessary that the person who is influencing the other has more authority and power than the victim?
The person in which coercion or undue influence?
In undue influence.
See, power authority का मतलब ये नहीं है कि that एक ऑफिशियल अथॉरिटी ही है. आप किसी को रिगार्ड में होल्ड करते हो या किसी को आपको लगता है कि that ये ट्रस्टवर्दी है, वो भी कर सकता है.
Yes.
Okay, now the quotation based questions and how to deal these quotation based questions we are going to see. And every year 30 marks worth of question, now it has become a trend. Now it has become a trend. We don't know कि अगले साल क्या होगा, but as of now it seems to be a trend that 30 marks of question on the quotation are being asked. So 3 quotations came. Quotation 1, the simplest acts of kindness are by far more powerful than 1,000 heads bowing in a prayer, Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, now understand this thing that as you have these quotations, how to approach these quotations. Number 1, what you can do in introduction, if you have some similar quotation in your mind, incidentally if that thing was there, you can mention that particular similar quotation in the introduction. For example, a similar quotation is there given by Desmond Tutu. Okay, so Desmond Tutu passed away recently 1.5 years back. So Desmond Tutu has given this particular quotation that do your little bit of good wherever you are. It is those little bits of good that put together that overwhelms the world. So small acts of kindness he is talking about. Fine, you are able to do small act of compassion, you are able to show a small act of kindness, do that thing, that is sufficient, will overwhelm the entire world. Gandhi ji is also saying a similar thing. If you don't have this particular quotation in your mind, not at all a problem. What you can do when a quotation comes in just 2-3 lines, you can give actually a kind of a simplified explanation of that particular quotation and its relevance. Okay, a simplified explanation of this particular quotation, a background of that particular quotation, or what you can do, you can simply define your take on this quotation. What your take on the quotation is. In body, we will elaborate the quotation in detail, point by point. In body, we'll elaborate the quotation. In introduction, we'll give a take or a simplified meaning of that quotation. Now, when we talk about Gandhiji, when we talk about Mahatma Gandhi, so we all know this particular thing that Mahatma Gandhi was a religious person and he was a devout person. But Gandhiji kept humanism above the ritualism and above the religion. According to Gandhiji, humanism is first. Okay, compassion, kindness, this is first. So this particular line of thought you can mention in introduction. What we can say that Mahatma Gandhi was although a religious person, but according to him, acts of compassion and kindness were more important than following ritualism and religious submission. You are going to a religious shrine, spending 2 hours every day in a religious shrine. According to Gandhiji, 1,000 heads bowing for prayer, more important them are the simple act of kindness. That is more important than 1,000 heads bowing in a prayer. So religious submission, following elaborate ritualism, उससे ज़्यादा important है छोटे छोटे act of kindness and छोटे छोटे act of compassion. Are you getting it or not? So you can mention that according to Gandhiji, these acts are more important than religious submissions. And this particular thing has been a timeless idea. This thing has been a timeless idea. It was true at that time, it is true today, and it will be true 100 years laterwards also. Now, अब आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा? You have to demonstrate how this quotation is important and relevant in present times. You need to demonstrate that, how it is relevant and important in present times. Now, how to demonstrate? We will be demonstrating it at the multiple levels. First, we will demonstrate it at the community level. Now, the क्वेश्चन को दोबारा रिवाइव करो, क्वेश्चन को दोबारा से एक बार रिकॉल करो. क्वेश्चन क्या बोल रहा है? स्मॉल एक्ट्स ऑफ काइंडनेस आर फार मोर इंपॉर्टेंट देन 1,000 हेड्स बोइंग इन प्रेयर. तो स्मॉल एक्ट्स ऑफ काइंडनेस की बात कर रहा है. नाउ वी सी टुडे दैट टुडे वी हैव एन इंटरकनेक्टेड वर्ल्ड. And in this interconnected world, even if the small acts of kindness are done by the people, these small acts of kindness will compound. And these small acts of kindness, after compounding, can solve the very big problems of the society, which society is not able to solve. Let's take one example. Here, we can take example of the crowdfunding. We'll take the example of crowdfunding. Now, what is crowdfunding? You might be seeing advertisements on YouTube, Facebook, that a person is suffering from a deadly disease. Okay, spinal muscular atrophy is their condition. Okay, which many children suffer. उसकी ड्रग 16 करोड़ रुपीस की है. 16 करोड़ रुपीस की ड्रग है. Poor families, even middle class families, they cannot afford a 16 crore rupees drug. And what has happened multiple number of times? They, in crowdfunding, petitions have been made to people that please donate 5 rupees, 10 rupees. And just by the donation of 5, 10, 10, 15, 20 rupees, what has happened? Many people's deadly medical conditions have been treated. So these small acts of compassion has overwhelmed. So here we can see this particular thing, that in today's interconnected world, these simple acts of kindness, they can create a big ripple effect and can address the various social, economic and environmental issues. Okay, if everybody plants one tree, environmental problem can be solved. Deforestation, afforestation as a problem can be rectified. Are you getting it or not? Second example, we see that small acts of kindness generates empathy and compassion, which is very much needed in the society. And here we have three examples. That how small acts of kindness have gone long way to help people. During the time of COVID, During the time of COVID, what happened? People collectively, but in their limited capacity, distributed food packets. People collectively, but in limited capacity, distributed drugs and small things. And what happened? It helped the poor people in a big way. Yes or no? Now, Khalsa group arranged the free oxygen cylinders. Is it clear or not? Small act, but helped so many people. दूसरा एग्जाम्पल आप देख सकते हैं यहां पे. We can see one more example of Jitendra Kumar Soni, a 2010 batch IAS officer from Rajasthan cadre. What he has done, as of his own, he has taken an initiative, that is Charan Paduka Abhiyan. Charan Paduka Abhiyan. And under this Charan Paduka Abhiyan, free shoes have been given to the underprivileged children who go school without the shoes. Are you getting it or not? Providing shoes to a child, it might look a very small act, but these small acts of compassion is far more important. This is the demand of the question, and we are showing that how at the multiple levels these small acts of compassion have helped, and actually they are creating a big change. They are creating a big change. Okay. Then after that, iska dekho, abhi now coming to the second kind, other type of an examples. Now see, listen. Often why people understand this thing? You will see an ad that a particular person is suffering with a disease and a treatment cost 10 crore rupees. Please donate 10 rupees. Probably you will not donate. Why? You will think that 10 crore rupees are needed. How my 10 rupee contribution will help? मेरे 10 रुपए से क्या हो जाएगा? ठीक है, होता है या नहीं होता? कि that how my 10 rupees are going to help? You will not help. But if we have this quote in the mind, that small acts of compassion, small acts of kindness are more important than grand gestures. Thousand head bowing for prayer, grand gesture उससे ज्यादा important है छोटे छोटे effort. Are you getting it or not? So personal responsibility. People will take personal responsibility. What will happen? By this quotation, people will take personal responsibility, and even in these limited capacities, if people will come forward, it can solve the big problems. And lastly, environmental stewardship. Today, we are facing the biggest problem, that is the environmental crisis. And environmental crisis cannot be solved by grand gestures. It cannot be solved by one powerful country or a few group of powerful countries. If collectively we come together and we do our little bit, we can solve the environmental problem. Life movement which India has started. What is the underlying philosophy of life movement? That citizens have to take the active participation in resolving the environmental crisis. So आपको छोटे छोटे capacity के अंदर में effort करना पड़ेगा. Now that quotation will help you take personal responsibility. Environmental problems can be solved. In the society as a whole, compassion and empathy will develop. Are you getting it or not? Fine. So basically, what this quotation emphasizes, this quotation, now in conclusion, what we are going to do, will be talking about that how this quotation is relevant for times to come, in the present times as well as in future. So this quote emphasizes the practical power of kindness and small actions. Practical power of kindness and small actions, it can address all the global challenges of the world. So this is more important rather than ritualism, religious submission, and always waiting that we'll do some grand gesture, only that will do, otherwise we'll not do anything. Is it clear or not? Fine. Then second quotation is there by Jawaharlal Nehru. Nee, see what you are going to do. You are going to write this particular thing that a similar idea has been preferred by other philosophers or other thinkers also. For example, this. नहीं तो quotation तो explain करेंगे. नहीं understand this thing. We are not saying that हम quotation explain नहीं करेंगे. We are not saying that वो quotation लिख के बस काम खत्म. नहीं. Listen, you missed one fundamental point. I am not saying. Listen, हम क्या कर रहे हैं, quotation को हम कैसे use कर रहे हैं. He has raised a very good question. how we are using quotation, you understand this thing. First step is to give a simplified explanation of that quotation and support that, yes, and support that the idea has been preferred by other philosophers also. For example, Desmond Tutu says this. Yes. ऐसा नहीं करना वो quotation लिखा और खत्म. You will explain what the quotation stands for, and then you will support that the similar ideas have been supported or talked by other philosophers also. For example, Desmond Tutu. Yes. Is it clear or not? Then we have this question particularly on women empowerment. Okay, so question says, to awaken the people, it is the women who must be awakened. Once she is on the move, the family moves, the village moves, the nation moves. Jawaharlal Nehru. So they are talking about women empowerment. Once you empower the women, entire community, entire society, entire family is empowered. Okay. So basically in introduction, now if you want to substantiate the idea with a similar quotation, here we have the quotation from Kofi Annan. So what Kofi Annan says? Kofi Annan says the similar thing. When women thrive, all of the society benefits and succeeding generations are given a better start in life. So by focusing on women development, entire society's development of entire family can be brought together. In this answer, what you need to show, you need to show a link that how women empowerment, how women's status improvement is helping the community at a large and the family at the large. Are you getting it or not? Now, what is the simplified explanation of this particular quotation? We'll be talking about that in introduction first. So when we talk about the empowerment of women, empowerment of women is critical for the holistic development of society as well as family. And all the indicators of social justice, health, education, they can be improved by awakening the women. By empowering the women, what we can do? We can unleash a hidden potential. Are you getting it or not? Fine. Now, how women will act as a catalyst of change? How women, now, अभी क्या करेंगे हम लोग? Through different dimensions. Social dimension, economic dimension, political dimension. We will explain that how empowering women will help on the empowerment of the community as a whole. For example, on social dimension, educating a woman will have a multiplier effect. When we educate women, we have seen in the example of Kerala, that because of the high literacy rates are in Kerala of the women, these educated women spend more in health, education and well-being of the family. And because women are spending more in the health, education of the family, we have seen that the social indicators in Kerala as a whole have been improved. Now, when we talk about the Kerala and Tamil Nadu, because they educated women first, so educating the women has brought these multiplier effects. Now, these women are investing more in health and education of children, and therefore entire family and consequently the society is getting empowered. It is on the move. Okay. Second, when we talk about the now economic empowerment की बात करते हैं. So basically here we have taken the example of the Seva initiative by Ela Bhatt. So what has happened? Ela Bhatt passed away just few months back, and Ela Bhatt was she played a very important role for the women empowerment through her Seva initiative, and multiple other initiatives are also there. Okay. So what actually happened under this Seva initiative, what happened? Ela Bhatt organized the women-led self-help groups. And as these women-led self-help groups were created, what happened? First, economic upliftment of the women happened who were involved in the self-help group. As the economic upliftment of women happened, upliftment of their family happened. And as all the women or a lot of women came together, entire community's economic upliftment happened because of the women-driven economic enterprises. So Seva, what they have done? Seva has empowered women economically. They have been given opportunities. And by that, what has happened? Families and entire societies, poverty rates in the villages, they have went down. Are you getting it or not? So economic empowerment. Then in political sphere. Now, abhi guys, you need to see this particular thing that, see, listen. Now, I am just giving you a reference from this editorial that came just, I think, day before yesterday. Now, obviously, ये article तब तक नहीं था जब आप paper लिख रहे थे. Obviously, it was not there. My point is that please keep on reading the newspapers, because here and from here or there, you will get one idea in your mind which can help you to substantiate one dimension. Now, understand this thing. See this particular thing. You might be knowing this particular thing that right now this women's reservation bill has been passed. Already in panchayat and local bodies, women are given 33% reservation. But there is a very big criticism. What is criticism? That sarpanch pati or pradhan pati concept prevails in panchayats. Actually, on the behalf of women, their husband are making the law. Okay, so women ka empowerment hua hi nahi hai. But to counter that particular thing, there are some other studies that are there. For example, this editorial mentioned this particular study of University of New South Wales, which said that women who have been elected in the villages, over time they have started asserting their presence in spite of the interference of the male family members. Understand this thing. Simply because male will interfere will not say that हम women को political sphere में लाएंगे ही नहीं, because at the end of the day तो उनके husband ही interfere करेंगे. You cannot say that. You give women the political power, over a period of time they will assert themselves, and that thing has been justified by this particular study. Obviously article abhi aaya. My point is that if you read the newspapers, some things are there in your mind and they suddenly come out when you are writing the exam. Are you getting it or not? So political sphere, as we talk about the political sphere, so we have seen this particular thing, that by giving political rights and by giving the political representation to the women, women can take up the matters which concerns the women. यहाँ पे एक example यहाँ पे भी लेंगे. We'll take this particular example, that higher representation of women in panchayats. Now women have started focusing on gender equality. They have started focusing on social welfare of the communities at large. Are you getting it or not? And legally empowering women. We have example of Chingari Andolan in Uttar Pradesh. Chingari Andolan in Uttar Pradesh. Now, what is this Chingari Andolan in Uttar Pradesh? It gives legal education to women. And as women have been given legal education by the help of this Chingari Andolan, what is happening now? The other people, male also, they are getting to know about their rights. And they raise voices against police atrocities. They raise their voices against some discrimination, some other wrong thing if it is happening to them. तो आप समझो कि that male को भी legal education मिला किससे? Women के through. And how women got legal education? With the help of these organizations such as the Chingari Andolan of Uttar Pradesh. By empowering women, it actually empowered the entire family. They know their legal rights. Are you getting it or not? Fine. Also in newspaper, this article came, if you want, Kollam became the first constitutional literate district in India. Okay. Kollam became the first constitutional literate district in India. And how it has become possible? By the active participation of women. By educating women with respect to constitutional remedies. The families, people, they came to know about the constitution and important provisions. The point is that you empower women economically, family will get empowered. You empower women socially, social indicators of family will improve. You empower women by giving legal education, entire family will learn their legal rights. Political empowerment of women, women will put forward those agendas which impact both men and women. Social agendas. Are we getting it or not? So therefore, empowering women will help in unlocking the true potential of the women and can help country to move on the path of progress. Are we getting it or not? ठीक है. उसके बाद में there is this another question. Do not hate anybody. Do not hate anybody, because the hatredness that comes out from you must in the long run come back to you. If you love, that love will come back to you, completing the circle. What you sow shall you reap. What you give, you will receive. If you generate hate, you will receive hate in the long run. If you generate kindness, If you generate love, you will become the recipient of that love. So, जो आपको चाहिए वो आप करो. Clear?
एग्जाम्पल देना होगा कि एक पॉइंट दे दे और उसका फिर वही सेंटेंस को दोहरा दे कि यार इससे ये कम्युनिटी को बेनिफिट.
यस, देखो यही तो करा है हमने जब सेवा की बात करी तो सेवा से विमेन सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप बना और उससे पूरी फैमिली का इकोनॉमिक अपलिफ्टमेंट हो गया. हाँ. हाँ, यस यस. No, that will not be possible and that is not even needed. Because understand this thing, that actually these are the proven facts. Okay, the panchayats where women leaders have led it for a long period of time, what has happened? They have picked up the social issues which have benefited the entire society. So वही चीज हम लोग यहाँ पे बता रहे हैं. Are you getting it or not? You need not to substantiate it with some data or study every time because you will not have that in exam practically.
कितना सब थ्योरी है, ये यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ वेल्स कैसे बता देगा?
अब उसके क्वेश्चन पे नहीं जाएंगे, एक स्टडी है, हम देखो रेफरेंस देंगे. आर यू गेटिंग इट और नॉट? ठीक है. ओके, सो व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट दिस कोटेशन, रोंडा ब्रायन सेज whatever you give out in life, whatever you give out in life is what you receive back in life. ठीक है, जस्ट कॉम्प्लीमेंटिंग आइडिया. बट अगेन गोइंग, हम लोग बात क्या करेंगे? We'll be talking about this particular phenomena that whatever you go give, it comes back to you. This is called as the principle of universal reciprocation. This is called as the principle of universal reciprocation. मतलब the types of vibrations you will generate, the type of influence you will generate, you will receive the same. Even we have the theory of karma. Even we have the theory of karma. Now, when we talk about the theory of karma, what the theory of karma says? A particular type of an actions that you will do, you will receive the same kind of result. You will do the good karmas, you are doing the acts of kindness, you are doing the acts of justice, you are helping other people, you will receive it back. You are putting obstacles in the other people's path, you will receive the same thing. Even the karma theory talks about the karmas, as you sow shall you reap. And principle of universal reciprocation says that whatever you do, it comes back to you. Let's demonstrate that particular thing with the help of examples. For example, at community level, we see this particular thing that there have been the long-standing antagonization, animosity between caste groups, religious groups. There have been the hatredness between the castes and the religions. And you tell me, has it impacted only one or two castes or all the castes and all the religion at the same time? All the religions, all the castes have got equally impacted because of this hatredness that they have generated against each other. You take international arena. So basically we see that during the time of World War II, what happened? Nazis perpetuated hatred against the Jews, yes or no? And that hatred went back to them. What happened? Because of that hatredness, because of the Holocaust of the Jews, what happened? There was an international backlash that came, and that international backlash became the reason for the downfall of entire Nazi regime, yes or no? So Nazi regime carried hatredness against Jews. They received a backlash, and that brought the entire decline of that, the entire Nazi regime. We take the example of colonialism. Entire colonialism shattered because it was based on the hatredness. Mythological example. You take the example from Mahabharata. So Duryodhan's envy, Duryodhan's hate against the Pandavas was received back by the Duryodhans, and what happened? The Kauravas' downfall happened after the battle of Kurukshetra. So whosoever has generated hate for the others, they have received it back with the equal force or even with the bigger force. And at the same time, if you will generate love, if you will generate compassion, you will receive that also. अब उसका example भी देखेंगे. Here we have example from India's from now see India has always been the supporter of humanitarian assistance. India has always helped the disaster stricken countries. During the COVID also, India helped the other countries. Fine. How? India carried the vaccine Maitri. India carried vaccine Maitri. And by vaccine Maitri, India helped the countries. So it was an act of compassion, act of love of India. Yes or no? And when the second wave of COVID came in 2021, are we also suffering with medical oxygens or not? So what happened? Entire country in the world came forward for the help of India. Has it happened or not? So we see that because India helped the global community through vaccine Maitri, India received the same help from the other countries when India faced the crisis during the second wave of COVID pandemic. And even Mahatma Gandhi has propagated the same thing, that if you generate love, you will receive love. Today we know these things, that the great leaders, अब सबका नाम आप डाल सकते हो, Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, they preached love, compassion for the other people, and because of that, they are also revered, venerated around the world. Yes or no? Is it clear or not? ठीक है. So, conclusion में, we can strengthen the statement given by Swami Vivekananda that it is a timeless reminder, and from time to time, it reminds us to do the ethical conducts and ethical deeds. Is it clear or not? अभी एक बात समझिए, देखो बहुत फंडामेंटल चीज है ये. Listen very carefully. Quotation based questions you can never prepare. Why? Because there are thousands and thousands of quotation. You don't know what UPSC will ask you. Thousands of Indian thinkers are there, thousands of Western thinkers, leaders are there. किसी ने भी कुछ भी quotation दिया, UPSC से कुछ भी बोल सकता है. My idea is that you please strengthen your understanding on the topic 1 as well as the topic number 5, that is the philosophers. Because from there what you can do, you can give the reference of some theories, you can give some philosophical flair in your answers, which can help you, to write good answers. So do that particular thing please. Quotation के लिए prepare नहीं कर सकते हो. मैं क्यों बोल रहा हूं ये? Because many of aspirants, what they do, they are just mugging up the 15, 20, 30 quotations. Do that thing, that will help you, but we cannot prepare for that particular thing, and that is a fair idea. So my point is that you develop the fodder points, open points, which you can use whenever the quotation based question is coming. Philosophical flair will be needed there. So develop that particular approach. Clear or not?
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
So, if we add both explanation and quotation in the introduction.
एक सेकंड आप कहाँ पे हैं आप?
Sir, at the back.
पीछे अच्छा. Okay, yes.
Sir, if we add both explanation and quotation in the introduction, won't the introduction get too long?
Again, can you speak? Please be silent.
If we add both explanation and quotation in the introduction, won't the introduction be too long?
Yes, a good question. Listen this thing. I have given you the alternative approaches that you have. For example, what you can do, you can give a simplified meaning of that particular quotation in 1.5 line, and then you can complement that a similar idea has been preached by XYZ thinker also and give the quotation. Maximum it will take 4 lines or 3 lines. 3 lines, 4 lines. हमको वो दूसरे quotation को नहीं समझाना है. वो दूसरा quotation we are using to just show that the similar idea have been complemented, थोड़ा सा impression बनाने के लिए. Are you getting it or not? And I am 100%, not 100, 99.9% sure कि that अभी तो हम ये quotation discuss कर रहे हैं, लेकिन exam में ये quotations नहीं आती है दिमाग में. So therefore that alternative idea explain that quotation and relevance of that quotation. That is actually going to be a thing जो आप लोग एग्जाम में करोगे. So इसीलिए quotation is an optional thing that if you have in your mind you can put it, that to complement this idea you can give it. Are you getting it or not? आ जाए तो ऐसे यूज करना है, नहीं आए तो let it be. Yes. फिर वो इन्वर्टेड कोमास मत लगाना. हाँ, इन्वर्टेड कोमास मत लगाना फिर. Yes. नहीं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. मतलब ऐसा कोई पैट मतलब मॉरल और एथिक्स, कम्युनिटी, फ्रेटर्निटी, इन्हीं पे आते हैं। ऐसा कुछ ये नहीं है कि दैट इसको पकड़ लो और आ जाएगा। ओके, नाउ दिस इज द क्वेश्चन, व्हाट, अभी देखो, व्हाट रियली मैटर्स फॉर सक्सेस, कैरेक्टर, हैप्पीनेस एंड लाइफ लॉन्ग अचीवमेंट इज अ डेफिनेट सेट ऑफ इमोशनल स्किल्स, योर EQ, not just purely cognitive abilities that are measured by conventional IQ test. Do you agree with this view? Give reason in support of your answer. So now this is a question which is from the topic 1 to topic 7. Now the students who have been in the class, you might be knowing that exactly the same topic we discussed, fine, and the question was EQ versus IQ, what is more important? EQ versus IQ, what is more important? Okay, so here we have seen that what Daniel Goleman says, that more important than IQ is your EQ. Fine. So here we have seen that how within the IQ versus EQ, what is more important? EQ is actually more important, and why EQ is needed for the civil servants. ठीक है, तो direct question which we could have addressed from the discussion that we have already taken up. Now coming back to the question. So basically what we are going to do in this particular question, in this question, introduction will be very simple. What we'll do in introduction, we will simply talk about the emotional quotient in 2 or 3 lines. Are you getting it or not? What you will do, identify a keyword which is there in an answer, define that particular keyword in 2-3 lines. It will give you a beautiful introduction, will not take that much time, and will not also seem that it is going away from the question. समझ में आ रहा है? तो पूरा क्वेश्चन में क्या कीवर्ड है? EQ, इंटेलिजेंस और इमोशनल क्वोशंट. So what we can say, we can provide that EI, emotional intelligence or emotional quotient, emotional intelligence or emotional quotient is one's ability, it is one's capability to perceive, interpret and understand one's own emotion as well as others emotion. Other component जरूरी है डालना. Perceive, understand this thing. Many people, they are in rage, but they don't know that they are in rage. They are taking decisions in the rage, but उनको पता ही नहीं है कि हमको गुस्सा आ रहा है. लोगों की सड़क पे लड़ाई हो रही है, ठीक है, वो पता नहीं क्या क्या बोल रहा है, सामने वाला सर प्लीज, अरे मेरे को गुस्सा ही नहीं आ रहा. तो many number of a time people don't understand that they are actually in an emotional stage, and whatever they are saying, whatever decision they are saying, they taking, this is under emotion, this is not a rational decision. So first you should be able to perceive your emotion. Second, you should be able to interpret emotion. Understand this thing. A particular type of an emotion, if you have for your wife, good. If same emotion you have for some other women, bad. Are you getting it or not? So emotions, understand कि ऐसा नहीं है कि ये इमोशन गलत है और ये इमोशन अच्छा ही है. Anger often is said as a negative emotion, yes or no? But you tell me, if anger is not there, can there be any revolution for justice? एंगर का मैनिफेस्टेशन खराब है, एंगर खराब नहीं है. गांधी जी व्हेन ही वाज पुश्ड आउट ऑफ अ रेलवे कंपार्टमेंट इन साउथ अफ्रीका, डू यू थिंक गांधी जी को गुस्सा ही नहीं आया? ही वाज एंग्री, बट ही डिड नॉट bursted that anger in a destructive way. That anger became his force, and that anger was used in the freedom struggle against the British. Are you getting it or not? If you are not outraged, if you are not angered, you can never take up any revolution, you cannot take any social reform movement. तो एंगर खराब नहीं है, एंगर का आउटबर्स्ट खराब है. यूजिंग एंगर एंड डिस्ट्रॉइंग एवरीथिंग इज रॉन्ग. आर यू गेटिंग इट और नॉट? Understand, so interpretation and understanding all the emotions, understanding the spectrum of emotions, not only for yourself but also understanding the other people's emotion. Is it clear? This is emotional intelligence, this is emotional quotient. And why it is more important? Why it is more important? Now here if you see Daniel Goleman's reference, you can take. Daniel Goleman is a very basic philosopher. अगर आप EQ, emotional intelligence पढ़ रहे हो, you might have heard his name. Very basic philosopher. So Daniel Goleman specifically have given this particular thing. अभी link line डाल देंगे एक. What is a link line? You can give a reference. Okay, even renowned thinker Daniel Goleman have supported that EQ is far more important than intelligence quotient. Clear or not? Now, how it will help? Why it is important? Now we'll justify why EQ matters for success, character, happiness and lifelong achievement. एक और बात समझो. When you are writing the quotation based answers, You can go a little bit here and there, you have freedom. लेकिन जब आप specific questions लिख रहे हो, for example this, okay, there you need not to divert an inch. The moment you are diverting, you are wasting your time and you are reducing your potential to get good marks. तो वहां पे बिल्कुल क्रिस्प एंड पिन पॉइंटेड लेजर शार्प फोकस होना चाहिए आंसर का क्वेश्चन पे. फाइन. व्हाई? कोटेशन में हो सकता है. क्यों हो सकता है कोटेशन में? बिकॉज कोटेशन इज जस्ट अ विजडम दैट हैज बीन गिवन बाय अ पर्सन. उसने नहीं बोला था. देखो, जब कोई कोटेशन देता है ना, तो वो कोटेशन के साथ में 4 पेज का फाइल या हैंडआउट नहीं देता कि मेरे कोटेशन का ये मतलब है. अ पर्सन गिव्स अ कोटेशन और गिव्स एन आइडिया. इट इज ऑन अस कि हम उसको कैसे इंटरप्रेट करते हैं. You can interpret in X way, I can interpret in Y way, other person will interpret in other way. So there is a scope that you can have some different interpretation. But in these questions, no. You have to specifically stick on to the requirement of the question. Now, why it is important? See, high emotional quotient builds high adversity quotient. Okay, adversity quotient we have also discussed. What is adversity quotient? Adversity quotient is your ability to bounce back from the crisis of your life. Now, many people, when crises come in their life, they break, they take extreme steps such as suicide. But some people bounce back from the crisis and they take more, they emerge brightly from the crisis. This is adversity quotient. Now, adversity quotient is directly proportional to emotional quotient. Why? Understand this thing. When a person has faced a crisis, in the situation of a crisis, a person is an emotionally charged up state. A person thinks that these negative emotions which I'm facing because of a setback, this condition will never be rectified. Are you getting it or not? But by very nature, emotions are always temporary. Emotions are always temporary. Emotional state is always temporary. A person will be calm that, okay, right now there is this emotional crisis situation that is there, but it will pass. Will be calm, will be composed, will think logically, rationally, and will take some lessons from that adversity. Are you getting it or not? So adversity quotient directly depends on high IQ. People who understand their emotions properly, know how to respond emotions properly, they also develop consequently the good adversity quotient. They have good resilience and can fight with crisis also effectively. One. Second, interpersonal relationships. Now, often when you are angry, you say those things to your friend, to your family, which even you don't want. देखो, आप समझो, when you are angry, what is your only intention? Your only intention is to say such a thing to this person that this person is devastated. Does it happen or not? आप ढूंढ के ऐसी बात बोलना चाहते हो कि this person should never be able to recover on this. But then you regret. That why I did that, why I said that. And what happens? Because people are not able to manage their emotions, they destroy their relations. So people who have good EQ, they will be able to manage interpersonal relations better. And your network is your net worth. Your network is your network. More people you have in your life to support you, more possible it is your success will come more easily, and there will be more people to celebrate that success. So people with EQ will be able to manage their interpersonal skills effectively and will be able to have good human resource with them. Yes or no? Third, ethical decision making. People commit a murder and justify that. Why they committed a murder? Because they were in rage. When you are in rage, when you are in emotions, you can take a lot of unethical decisions. More emotionally charged up you are, more possibility to take unethical step. So what happens? A person, if has good understanding on emotions, will see the consequences of an action first and might not do that. Fine. Then conflict resolution, okay, and stress management. Fine. Disputes, conflicts can be managed. Many number of times, why we are not able to manage the conflict? Because we think emotionally, not logically. Are you getting it or not? Okay. And here, in conclusion, what you can do, you can talk about that success in life. Success can't just be achieved through high IQ. Success cannot just be achieved through high IQ. Rather, success depends on the golden triangle of IQ, EQ and AQ. So EQ is equally important. अब ये भी नहीं करना कि IQ को आपने बिल्कुल ही रिडिक्यूल कर दिया कि इंटेलिजेंस तो चाहिए ही नहीं है. इंटेलिजेंस चाहिए, लेकिन सिर्फ इंटेलिजेंस इज नॉट नीडेड. इज इट क्लियर और नॉट? वन मोर थिंग, we have not specifically mentioned the EQ for civil servant. Why? Because the question is asking the EQ's need in general. Are you getting it or not? Now see, by these points, will the happy life and whatever the keywords were there, it will come or not? If we just go here, so do you agree? Success, character, happiness, lifelong achievement, will all those come by that EQ? Fine. Then moving to the next question. Okay, differentiate moral intuition from moral reasoning with suitable examples. Differentiate moral intuition from moral reasoning with suitable example. Okay, so in the class, if you remember, we have discussed moral intuition directly. Okay, so if you remember, we have discussed the Michael humor. Okay, so here, if you remember in the class, we have discussed the ethical intuitionism given by the Michael humor. So directly question from there could be tackled up. Yes. 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 तीन चीजें हैं सक्सेस के लिए, एडवर्सिटी कोशेंट, IQ एंड EQ. Okay. Differentiate between moral intuition from moral reasoning with suitable example. Now this question you might not be able to address if you don't understand the basics of ethics. तो हम लोग देखो हमेशा क्या होते हैं कि that ethics को हम लोग इक्वेट कर देते हैं विद अ काइंड ऑफ अ ज्ञान कि बड़ी बड़ी बातें फिलोसॉफिकल जो भी मन में आएगा बोल देंगे और एथिक्स की तैयारी हो गई. बट नो, समटाइम्स यू नीड टू हैव एन अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द बेसिक कंसेप्ट्स ऑफ एथिक्स, बेसिक थ्योरीज ऑफ एथिक्स, बेसिक व्यू पॉइंट्स दैट आर देयर इन एथिक्स. नाउ व्हाट इज एथिकल इंट्यूशनिज्म? लिसन, ethical intuitionism is a viewpoint. Again, we can give the reference of Michael humor here if we have. Okay, just a minute. Okay. Now what is ethical intuition, moral intuitionism? So moral intuitionism is a past. Now understand this, moral intuitionism ये बोलता है what is ethical, what is unethical. You don't need some special understanding or you don't need some special parameter to understand what is ethical and what is unethical. As an intuition, you will understand that this is ethical, this is unethical. For example, when your classmate has left his wallet on the side chair and he has left and there is nobody in the class, no camera, आपका मन करेगा कि that ये wallet उठा लेते हैं, but अंदर से आ जाएगा ना कि that no, you are doing wrong. So moral intuitionism provides that we learn what is ethical or moral through intuitions. Through intuitions. That is moral intuitionism. Given by whom? Michael humor. ठीक है? HUEMER. Okay? In the notes that we have discussed. Then moral reasoning. What is moral reasoning? Abhi moral reasoning is opposite. In moral reasoning, we'll decide ethical or moral not by intuition. Rather, we will give deliberation. We will think from the multiple angles. That X according to deontologist सही है या नहीं है, according to consequentialist सही है या नहीं है, according to that viewpoint is it right or not, according to that viewpoint is it right or not. So what is moral reasoning? Moral reasoning is a deliberate logical thinking based approach to arrive at moral conclusion. To arrive at moral conclusion. We'll just not right away say that according to me it is right or wrong. We'll elaborate, understand it from multiple viewpoints, multiple philosophical viewpoints, and then we'll come to a conclusion. Are you getting it or not? This is the basic difference between moral intuition and moral reasoning. Now understand this particular thing. Then when we talk about intuition and reasoning, abhi question kya hai? Differentiation. Okay, moral intuition, will there be reasoning or not? Will there be justification? No. Prima facie, what you think right or wrong, you will take that. Reasoning process is not there. In moral reasoning, the name very clearly provides that we will reason and will justify X, Y, X, Y, Y, Y. Okay. Then next, listen. Moral reasoning is vulnerable to one's bias, prejudices, and stereotypes. Understand this thing. Now, vulnerability to biases. Listen this thing. Vulnerability to biases. Now understand this particular thing. Listen. Suppose I have been born in a conservative family. I have been born in a conservative traditional family. Okay, and my socialization is of this type. Okay. Now what can happen if a particular question of marriage and live-in relationships comes, cohabitation comes in my front? What I might do? I might on first hand will condemn the live-in relationships. I will call marriage as a more moral relation and live-in relations as an immoral relation. I have claimed maybe live-in relationships as an immoral relation, marriage as a moral relation. Why? Because of my bias that is there for the marriages because of my upbringing. Are you getting it or not? In moral reasoning, what will happen? I will not just see ethicality or ethicality and ethicality on my basis. I will see it from the viewpoint of bodily autonomy, one's right of choice, one's right of justice. And I will then might come to a conclusion that marriage or live-in relationships, none is ethical, none is unethical, depends on your choice. Depends on your choice. So biases could reflect more in moral intuition, but in moral reasoning, as we'll discuss it from multiple viewpoints, that biases might be less. It might not be that much prone to biases. Okay. Then which will be more consistent? You tell me, moral reasoning or moral intuition? Consistent क्या होगा? Moral reasoning or moral intuition? Intuition or reasoning? See, देखो, very good. Understand. आप ये बताओ, our thinking, it changes from time to time or it stays the same? It changes from time to time. My experience will change, my thinking, my belief will change na. So what I said ethical 10 years back, I will say it unethical after 10 years. Are you getting it or not? Moral intuition will be prone to inconsistency. Okay, moral intuition. Moral reasoning will give more consistent judgment. Why? Because time tested principles are there जिसके basis पे हम judge कर रहे हैं क्या सही है क्या गलत है. Are you getting it or not? So more consistency will be there in the moral reasoning. Are you getting it or not? ठीक है. अब accuracy क्या है? Understand this thing. Accurate क्या है क्या नहीं है वो final judgment आप कभी नहीं बना सकते हो. Because always subjectivity will be there. Are we clear or not? Then last question 5a, is conscience a more reliable guide when compared to law, rules and regulation in the context of ethical decision making? So basically what is the conscience? Conscience is the voice of conscience can be compared with a moral compass. Voice of conscience क्या है? The internal voice that comes from within and tells you from time to time what is right, what is wrong, what is ethical, what is unethical. That is your conscience. The voice of your conscience. Have you heard the story of Pinocchio? So there is a story of Pinocchio ना, वो जब भी कुछ unethical करता था उसकी नाक बड़ी हो जाती थी. चलो, not going in that. So voice of conscience is a moral compass and it tells you what is right, what is wrong. And one's voice of conscience is rooted in one's moral understanding. It is rooted in one's moral understanding. Fundamentally जो आपकी moral understanding है वो गाइड करेगी आपको फ्रॉम टाइम टू टाइम एंड वॉइस विल कम फ्रॉम विद इन. इट विल गाइड यू दिस इज राइट, दिस इज रॉन्ग एंड दैट इज द वॉइस ऑफ कॉन्शियंस. इट गाइड्स अस टुवर्ड्स एथिक्स. आर यू गेटिंग इट और नॉट? ठीक है, तो फाइन. ओके, तो हमने इफ द स्टूडेंट्स वी हैव डिस्कस्ड आल्सो बोथ ऑफ दीज थिंग्स. Do you believe laws, rules and regulation are adequate source of ethical guidance and the voice of conscience and its rules? Okay, crisis of conscience. Okay, is voice of conscience morally right or not? So entire this thing we have discussed also. Now यहां पे भी discuss कर लेते हैं. Okay, let's discuss it here also. Okay, see. So what you are going to do? You are going to describe what is voice of conscience. Yes or no? Voice of conscience is a subtle inner voice which acts as a moral compass. Compass क्या करता है? डायरेक्शन दिखाता है. Yes or no? Which acts as a moral compass and guides a person with respect to right and wrong. Now, is voice of voice of conscience helps us into see beyond our selfish interest. Now, is voice of conscience morally right or wrong? Theological viewpoint says voice of conscience is voice of God. भगवान बता रहे हैं और भगवान तो हमेशा क्या होंगे? सही होंगे. Secular viewpoint says that no, sometimes it can be right, sometimes it could be wrong. Now question देखो क्या है, question देखो again. Question says, is it a more reliable guide when compared to law, rule and regulation in the context of decision making? On one hand, laws, rules are there. On one hand, voice of conscience is there. Is voice of conscience more reliable or laws are more reliable? Laws are more reliable. Okay. Okay. You say, some of you say laws are more reliable. Now understand this. Actually, laws can sometimes go against the basic ethics. And voice of conscience in that time becomes more reliable. For example, was slavery once a law or not? Was slavery once a law or not? Can you justify the slavery law as ethical? No. But people fought against the slavery or not? कैसे slavery के लिए लड़ाई करी? अंदर से कुछ आवाज आई होगी ना? So voice of conscience guided the people that though it is justified by law but cannot be ethical. So voice of conscience directed them. Many colonial laws, for example, Criminal Tribe Act, where certain tribes were deemed to be born criminals. Are you getting it or not? आपके पैदा होते ही आपको क्रिमिनल बोल दिया. You have heard the denotified tribes. Denotified tribes are those tribes which were earlier listed as criminal tribes. Okay, adultery was a law once upon a time. अभी आपका व्यू पॉइंट कुछ भी हो सकता है. हम लोग जुडिशरी का व्यू पॉइंट लेंगे. सुप्रीम कोर्ट का व्यू पॉइंट विल बी द व्यू पॉइंट विल यूज इन एग्जाम. Supreme Court has called adultery as an unethical law. So voice of conscience guides what is ethical. Sometimes laws can be corrupted or unethical. Slavery, colonial law such as Criminal Tribes Act and adultery. And this voice of conscience has guided the social reformers, yes or no? Raja Ram Mohan Roy, he fought against the norms of society at that point of a time, yes or no? Kyun? His voice of conscience guided him that everybody is justifying, let's say, sati, but it cannot be right. Fine. But law also often, now see, so this is sometimes, but sometimes conscience की भी limitation है. You cannot therefore replace the conscience with law. Law has limitations and voice of conscience is important, but sometimes voice of conscience also has limitations. Voice of conscience also has limitations. What? For example, now subjectivity is your internal voice, yes or no? And everybody's moral understanding is same or different? Different. So consistency होगी या नहीं होगी? आपके अकॉर्डिंग आपकी वॉइस ऑफ कॉन्शियंस एक्स बोलती है, मेरी वॉइस ऑफ कॉन्शियंस वाई बोलती है, हिज वॉइस ऑफ कॉन्शियंस इज समथिंग एल्स. हाउ कंसिस्टेंसी as what is to be done, what is not to be done in a society will come. Are you getting? Moreover, your voice of conscience might change over a period of time or not. Something which was being justified by your voice of conscience 10 years back might be वो भी justify नहीं करे. Are you getting it or not? Then can there be bias? Once, okay, आपकी वॉइस ऑफ कॉन्शियंस तो कुछ बोलती है लेकिन उसके लीगल कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस भी तो हो सकते हैं ना. डॉक्टर का वॉइस ऑफ कॉन्शियंस बोलता है कि ये पेशेंट बहुत सफर कर रहा है, ओके, आई शुड गिव अ लीथल इंजेक्शन टू दिस पर्सन. आर यू गेटिंग इट और नॉट? डॉक्टर बाय हिज एक्सपीरियंस says that this person will not revive and is in a lot of pain and there is no chance medically that he will revive. Let me give him a lethal injection so that a person at least dies with the dignity. But legally, is active euthanasia allowed? No. Are you getting it or not? So hearing your voice of conscience might have legal consequences. Okay. Then some issues are so complex. Some issues are so complex that single person's voice of conscience or a group's of voice of conscience cannot determine that. So voice of conscience का भी क्या होगा? Limitation होगा. हाँ जी, are we clear on this or not? Okay. Then ये तो डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन है बिल्कुल. ओके, सो अभी अच्छा कंक्लूजन में क्या लिखेंगे? नाइदर कॉन्शियसनेस कैन बी द सोल गाइड नॉर ओनली द लॉज कैन बी सोल गाइड. देयर नीड्स टू बी अ वर्चुअस बैलेंस. Laws should be guided by basic morality. Are you getting it or not? And basic moral conscience principles should be reflected in law. तो बैलेंस होना चाहिए दोनों का. Okay, then next question. Probity is essential for an effective system of governance and socio-economic development discuss. Okay, so basically this question on probity also was discussed right in the class. Okay, what is probity? Why probity in governance has been described as an indispensable attribute. Okay, now when we talk about probity, probity क्या है? Yes. What is difference between? Okay, understand this particular thing. At the end of the day, we use them interchangeably. Understand this particular thing. Conscience, intention क्या है? Intention is what you want to do, and what you want to do, from where it flows. वो आता कहां से है? It comes from your conscience. Are you getting it or not? Intent क्या है? मैं ये करना चाहता हूं, ये मैं नहीं करना चाहता हूं. Intent flows from where? ठीक है, अंडरस्टैंड दिस थिंग. क्या? इंट्यूशन. ठीक है, अंडरस्टैंड दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग. जब हम लोग इंट्यूशंस की बात करते हैं, व्हाट इंट्यूशन इज? इंट्यूशन इज विच यू फील इज राइट. Intuitions could be from multiple angles. Intuitions could be from the point of view of some spiritual angle. Are you getting it or not? Maybe ऐसा करना चाहिए. Ethicality, जब हम conscience की बात करते हैं, moral angle, ethical angle will always be there. When you talk about intuition, in intuition a lot of angles will be there, not only the moral angle. Are you getting it or not? For example, ये काम करना चाहिए, सक्सेस मिल जाएगी, moral angle नहीं है वहां पे. ठीक है, तो intuition के अंदर में multiple angles could be there. When we talk about conscience, conscience specifically pertains to one's moral, okay, what one's moral intent, what it is. ठीक है. Okay, now the next question, what is probity? What is probity? So probity क्या है? What is probity? Probity is simply, listen, so probity is an active value of governance. And what probity means? Probity is a value of public life. Understand? Probity is a value of public life. What is probity? Probity means to have strong moral principles, in public life, to behave as per these strong moral principles. Also probity includes to eradicate opaqueness and to bring transparency in the system. Are you getting it or not? I have given all these components. What probity includes? Absence of corruption in one's own conduct, active propagation towards the removal of corruption, and taking steps to instill the culture of transparency. Are you getting it or not? देखो, honesty और transparency में क्या फर्क है? Transparency और honesty and probity में क्या फर्क है? Probity is an active value. For example, you give me 500 rupees bribe, I don't take 500 rupees bribe. It is honesty. You give me 500 rupees bribe, I will not take, and I will also not let others take that bribe. That is probity. Is it clear or not? So probity is an active value. Absence of corruption in your character and inculcation of culture of transparency in the entire organization as a whole. Okay. अभी probity क्या करेगी? Why probity is important? Probity builds the trust and credibility of the government. Yes or no? If in governance there is probity, people will have more faith in the government and government policies. Yes or no? Okay. Efficient resource allocation, efficient spending, rule of law will be preserved, government will be accountable. ये सब हो जाएगा probity से या नहीं हो जाएगा? क्लियर? तो वेरी रिलेटिवली इजी क्वेश्चन. इसके अंदर में डिटेल में जाना है क्या? ठीक है, तो कीवर्ड्स को जस्ट एक एक लाइन में हम लोग एक्सप्लेन करेंगे. ओके, मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. ओके, सो लास्ट क्वेश्चन वी हैव रीच्ड. What are the major teachings of Guru Nanak? Explain the relevance in the contemporary world. What are the major teachings of Guru Nanak? Explain its relevance in the contemporary world. So whenever you are writing a question on a specific personality's teaching, अभी देखो, obviously किसी teacher की teaching पूछी है. Are you getting it or not? Whenever a particular teaching is being given, the point is that we can give a kind of an, always there will be some ethical implication and ethical underpinnings in that. So simply you will give a kind of a brief, you will be talking briefly about Guru Nanak, that Guru Nanak is the founding figure of Sikhism, and his virtues and wisdoms have impact beyond the Sikhism. For example, his teachings, they are relevant not only for Sikhism but also for other religions, not only for India but for other countries. So we'll talk about the significance of Guru Nanak and his teachings, that his teachings are time tested. His teachings extend beyond just the religion. His teachings extend to social realm, ethical realm. Okay. Now, what are the major teachings of Guru Nanak? यहीं पे हम teachings देख लेंगे और उनका relevance देख लेंगे. So, 3 pillars of Guru Nanak's teachings are, okay, वंद चखो, कीरत करो and नाम जपो. These are the 3 main pillars of Guru Nanak's teaching. Okay. So first, what Guru Nanak ji says, help those who are in need of help, generosity, charity. If we help other people who are in need of the help, will it bring a culture of generosity? Will it bring an ethical outcome or not? Kirat karo, make a living, make a honest living. Naam japo, take the name of true God. So Guru Nanak emphasized on meditating, contemplating on the name of true God, because contemplating the name of God, which will help you to take control over Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar. Kam means lust, Krodh means anger, Lobh means greed, Moh means attachment, and Ahankar means ego. So contemplation will help you to get rid of these evils from your life. Is it clear or not? अभी इन तीनों का what is, okay, सरबत दा भला, सब दा भला, okay, सरबत दा भला means don't look the well-being of yours, look beyond your interest. Doesn't it goes in the line of Antyodaya and Sarvodaya, specifically Sarvodaya? Are you getting it or not? Speak truth without any fear. Clear? अब इन सब का रेलेवेंस इन प्रेजेंट कंटेम्परेरी टाइम क्या होगा? When we talk about the first, okay, that is help others who are in need, what it will happen? It will bring empathy, compassion in the society. People will be able to reach the people who are less fortunate. Are you getting it or not? Generosity will come in the society. Okay. लिख सकते हो ऑब्वियसली. देखो, गुरु नानक की टीचिंग आप एक पेज में कम नहीं कर सकते हो. ऑब्वियसली कुछ पॉइंट्स आएंगे जो लिखोगे, कुछ पॉइंट्स छूट भी जाएंगे. बिल्कुल बिल्कुल लिख सकते हो. ओके देन अंडरस्टैंड दिस थिंग. ऑनेस्ट लिविंग की हम लोग बात करते हैं. डू यू फाइंड टुडे द कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस स्कैम्स दैट आर हैपनिंग? कैन द कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस स्कैम्स, कैन द कॉर्पोरेट एथिक्स बी ब्रॉट थ्रू ब्रिंगिंग द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ ऑनेस्ट लिविंग और नॉट? करप्शन, माल प्रैक्टिसेस. Okay, and then Naam Japo, spiritual well-being, and universal brotherhood. Okay. Then last question, explain the term social capital.
If we don't know what he said or what his teachings are, then what should be the approach?
Very good question. कि सर एनी लीडर्स टीचिंग हैज बीन आस्क्ड, वी डोंट नो, क्या करें? क्वेश्चन छोड़ दें क्या? मैं क्या करूंगा अगर मैं लिखूंगा तो? बिकॉज आई विल से कि आप ये करो तो फिर आप मेरे को अकाउंटेबल लगा दो. देखो मैं क्या करूंगा. लिसन, एनी टीचर, ओके, दे माइट बी आस्किंग अबाउट मदर टेरेसा, माइट बी यू डोंट नो अबाउट मदर टेरेसा. आप एक बात बताओ, क्या मदर टेरेसा ने कंपैशन की बात करी होगी या नहीं करी होगी? एम्पैथी, टॉलरेंस की बात करी होगी या नहीं करी होगी? मेरा पॉइंट है, इतना जेनरिक आंसर लिख दो कि एग्जामिनर काट ही ना पाए. आर यू गेटिंग इट और नॉट? इतना स्पेसिफिसिटी में मत जाओ, क्योंकि देन यू आर गोइंग इन अ डेंजर जोन. डोंट यूज द की टर्म्स देयर. आर यू गेटिंग इट और नॉट? फॉर एग्जांपल नाम जपो, ओके, ये स्पेसिफिक टर्म है. फॉर एग्जांपल अनेकांतवाद, स्यादवाद, ये स्पेसिफिक टर्म है इन जैनिज्म. प्रतीत्य समुत्पाद इज अ टेक्निकल टर्म इन बुद्धिज्म. माय पॉइंट इज दैट यू डोंट नो, you cannot leave the question. Write so much generic question that examiner is bound के that 3-4 नंबर तो देने पड़ेंगे. Compassion, honesty, truth speaking. अब मदर टेरेसा को आपको पता है, she talked about helping the less fortunate one. लिखो 4 लाइन. She talked about tolerance. लिखो 3 लाइन. Are you getting it? Because see, we need to prepare for unplanned, foreseen circumstances. देखो लाइफ में, देखो in a war, a smart soldier is one who is prepared for unforeseen contingencies. लाइफ में कंटिजेंसीज जो है, अनफोर्सिन इवेंट है, उसके लिए कितना प्रिपेयर हो, इट विल डिटरमाइन. समझ में आ गया? इतना जेनरिक आंसर लिखो कि एग्जामिनर नंबर ना काट पाए, कुछ तो दे. दैट इज ऑलवेज बेटर देन लीविंग दैट आंसर. ओके, एक्सप्लेन द टर्म सोशल कैपिटल. अगेन वी हैव डिस्कस्ड दिस in the class. Even D.Y. Chandrachud, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud's reference also we have discussed. What is social capital? First unit we have discussed the social capital. So what is social capital? So social capital refers to the values, benefits that you will get because of your social relations. Understand this thing. I am a trustworthy person and another person is not a trustworthy person but very much talented. You want to do business. मेरे साथ करोगे, इसके साथ करोगे, मेरे साथ करोगे, because I might not be that talented but I am a trustworthy person. Yes or no? This is my social capital. So what is social capital? It refers to the values and benefits and advantages. Okay, values and benefits and advantages that communities derive from their social networks, social relations and interactions. One's social capital will be built by the trust that person enjoys in the society, relations, bonds the person enjoys in the society. अभी social capital का importance good governance से बताओ क्या है? अभी एक बहुत अच्छा सा example देता हूं. Example was given in economic survey. You tell me how much people actually are paying income tax in India. Specificity में नहीं जाते, around 3-4% लोग income tax देते हैं. Different data are there, मतलब very less in single digit. Yes or no? 3-4% people are paying income tax. Why people don't pay income tax? According to economic survey, major reason is that people don't pay income tax because people don't have a problem in paying the premium. You pay premium, you'll order food from Swiggy, Instamart, Blinkit से खाना, राशन ग्रोसरी ऑर्डर कर लोगे, प्रीमियम देने के लिए तैयार हो. But why people don't want to pay income tax? Because people think the money they will pay in income tax will go in corruption. Money will not be used for the right purpose. क्यों दे income tax? Are you getting it or not? Can I say that social trust is less in people against the government, therefore people are paying less taxes? Yes or no? Clear? Social trust is a component of social capital. Are you understanding it or not? Understand this thing. If there is high social capital, if there is high social trust, people will comply government laws, government policies effectively without even asking. Yes or no? Are you getting? There was one article came during the time of COVID in the Hindu newspaper, and article was specifically mentioning the Kerala's case study. They say generally compliance rate in Kerala is high in almost everything. Why? It is not because of people, it is because of government. Government in the past has worked excessively on the development of people and have generated high social capital, high social trust in the front of people, and people comply the government. Are you getting it or not? So if government has high social capital, more compliances to law will be there. Simply high social trust can increase the income tax compliance rate as per economic survey. Is it clear or not? So what will happen? Social capital is very much important for the effective governance. Why? Effective compliance to, if there is a good social trust, what will happen? High social trust, citizens will comply towards the law of the land and will uphold government policy. Yes or no? आप गवर्नमेंट में बिलीव करते हो कि गवर्नमेंट जो कर रही है हमारे अच्छे के लिए कर रही है. विल यू कंप्लाई और नॉट? लेकिन पहले क्या चाहिए? सोशल ट्रस्ट. सोशल ट्रस्ट इज अ कंपोनेंट ऑफ सोशल कैपिटल. सेकंड, collective decision making. If high social capital is there, people trust government, government trusts citizens, people trust each other. High social capital. Will it help in collective decision making or not? We always see government with suspicion. Government comes out with any law, अगले दिन editorials में negative. Why? Because we think that there is some vested agenda. If there is high social capital of the government, people will agree, there will be collective decision making or not. अभी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रेजोल्यूशन इफेक्टिव कहां पे होगा? सोशल कैपिटल हाई है वहां पे या जहां पे कम है? जहां डिस्ट्रस्ट है, सस्पिशन है, मिसट्रस्ट है, वहां रिकॉन्सिलेशन हो ही नहीं सकता. आर यू गेटिंग इट और नॉट? crisis response. Now you see, when social capital is high, government social capital in front of citizen, and within the citizen social capital is high, during the conflict people will come together or not, and will fight with the crisis as a collective entity, yes or no? And then finally, so all these things are there. So therefore high social capital is sine qua non. It is indispensable. It is indispensable. Okay, so I think thoda cut gaya. It is indispensable for effective policies, effective governance, and good ethical governance. Are you getting it or not? Okay, so that is about it, and I hope that you have got the utility of the time that you have spent here and got the points beyond just this answer, but the points which you can use generally in your ethics also for the next year or elsewhere. Yes. आप लोग वन थिंग, नाउ कृतिका मैम विल कम, आप लोग बाहर आ जाइए एंड विल डिस्कस ऑल द डाउट्स दैट आर देयर. डज इट मेक सेंस?